following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Cogeco.
Welcome to Oakville Matters. This is the show on cable channel 23 and 700 where you learn what matters in Oakville and who it matters to. And today we're talking about the vital signs of Oakville. How healthy are we as a society? And with us are Wendy Rinella, who's the new executive director, I think your title is, of the CEO rather, of the Community Foundation, which is an amazing success story in our town. Nick Jelinek, who is the chair, and for more than a year now. And we also have Michelle Pommells, and she's the president and CEO of Home Sweet Hope. This is an organization that has an amazing charity and an amazing idea around helping people get up in life. And she's just won the Vital Grant for their Homeward Bound Halton program. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And why don't we start right there? Could you describe for me and for everyone who's watching, first the program and second the organization?
Great. So the program, we were just delighted to be the recipient of the first ever Vital Grants Award, made possible by the fund holders at the Oakville Community Foundation. And this is really a visionary strategy by the Oakville Community Foundation to provide multi-year funding for organizations that are making a transformative impact in the community. And so we were very fortunate to be the first ever recipient of the Vital Grants Award this year for our Homeward Bound Halton program. Home Sweet Hope is a charitable organization, and we've been around for about 10 years. And our focus today is helping single-parent families who are struggling with precarity of housing and living below the poverty line, to help these single parents stabilize their lives and break the cycle of poverty. We're about transforming lives. We're about helping people become unstuck and being able to live up to their full potential.
Now, your organization couldn't exist, I'm sure, without a dedicated volunteer board of directors and people with the vision to have created the organization in the first place. Do you want to tell us who some of those people are?
Absolutely. We couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. First and foremost, our board of directors, 12 people strong, led by Peter Kaliznik, who's the chairman of our board. I'll name a few of the individuals that have been so key in helping to bring this strategy to the area. Stephen Perros with Central Aaron Property Managers, who's been, I think, the oldest serving member of the board and yet the youngest serving member of the board at the same time. Michael Shane has been the chair of our development committee and has been instrumental in bringing Homeward Bound Halton to the area. He was the first person that recognized the transformative power of this program that was started by Wood Green Community Services in Toronto, and really led the effort to make the Community Foundation aware of the project and other leaders in the community aware of the project 2 or 3 years ago. We have Lisa Summers, who is a senior partner with KPMG on our board, and so many people that, you know, I won't go through the whole list, but they're essentially my extended team. And together we make this wonderful program of services available in Halton.
So it sounds like you have a high-powered board, and that's always a good thing for any organization. Nick, you're the chair of a board. Tell us a little bit about the history of the Community Foundation, and why don't you start with who's on your board?
Well, I'm a little biased, but I argue often that we have the best board in Oakville. That said,
board fight.
The key attributes, I think, to any healthy board is a mix of time, talent, and treasure. as provided by the board members, and doing so in collaboration with a singular focus. So every one of our board members is authentically committed to improving this community. And we do have that great balance. Some participate and contribute in different ways than others, but collectively we are a rock star board. The Oakville Community Foundation is one of 191 community foundations across Canada, and while we are relatively young to the others, we're already the 10th largest as defined by assets under management, so we're just around the $100 million mark, and that allows us to distribute roughly $2 million a year to the community.
Well, that's a big increase over what it was 9 years ago when I became mayor. Huge increase. How did you do that?
5 years ago, we had an off-site board meeting where we were defining our strategic plan for the next 5 years. That's just concluded, and at that time we said, let's get to 100 million. It wasn't just about having a nice big number, but it was all about what that big number could do in our community. And I would say of the 12 people in the room, 1 or 2 were nodding and 8 or 9 were shaking their heads saying no chance. But we quickly recognized if we fell short, we would be in the $80 or $90 million mark, which sounds pretty healthy to us. And again, with focus and collaboration, we made it. And we are now just defining our next 3-year strat plan.
So the CEO that led that has just retired, Rusty Bailey.
Yes.
And with an example like that to follow, Wendy, you're now in the slot, and what's your target?
My target, well, my target is set by the board, and we'll be defining that through the development of our strat plan, which we'll be releasing shortly. But from my perspective, what
will you be urging them to set a target of going to 200, or how ambitious are we going to see you here?
Well, I think we're very fortunate in Oakville that we're a very wealthy community, and we're ranked by Money Sense magazine as the 4th wealthiest community in Canada. And we're also a caring community, so that enables us to set high targets. And I'm not going to reveal all now. Maybe you'll invite me back after we release our strat plan. But we certainly will continue to grow alongside our community, and we'll continue to provide the benefits and community impact that we do.
Wouldn't it be something if there was a Caring Sense magazine that would rank communities on how caring they were rather than how wealthy they were?
I think we'd rank high on both.
Well, I'd like to be #1 on the caring side. I've often said that Oakville's a fully featured community. There's a stereotype out there that we're wealthy because of things like Money Sense. But it's always a revelation to people when I point out to them that we're actually a fully featured community. We have everything, including poverty. But we have a lower rate of poverty than is the average for the country or the province. And I've always thought that if we can't solve it, no one can, because we have greater resources and smaller problem. And you'd think with that kind of an advantage, we'd show more progress. You guys have certainly done a heck of a job in, I think in my time, you've trebled or quadrupled what you can bring to bear. So I guess, Wendy, I can't forget to mention that you're a star of this television channel with your shows on. So are you giving those up? Has the board said now you're going to be a CEO and not a TV star?
Well, I never thought of myself as a TV star, and I don't think I was hired for that particular capacity. But should the board want me to continue to do that, and they've allowed me to, of course, appear on your starring show. So I'm sure I'll continue to have guest appearances on shows such as this.
Well, she's a major talent when it comes to television, so you guys should keep that in mind. I assume you had that in mind when you went to her. But you also have a distinguished business career at First Canadian Title. Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your business career, how that led you to this?
Well, actually, people know me locally for that role at First Canadian Title, but what they don't realize is I actually spent 10 years at the Ontario government, and I left as a director of policy. I've been involved in the not-for-profit sector. I ran an industry association, and then ultimately I ended up in the private sector. And while I was at FCT for a decade, I did a number of things there, including including starting the FCT Charitable Foundation, which also is one of those foundations that provides and benefits back into the community as well. So that's how it dovetailed with this particular position.
Yeah, folks, this is a high energy individual. There's no question about it. And you led the Chamber of Commerce too.
Well, I was the chair of the board and certainly benefited from the support of a very impressive board, which at the time I would have said was the best board in Oakville. Since we're having a board fight, I might as well.
It's a board off.
That's right. No boring in these boards. But yes, I had the good fortune in 2012 to do that.
Well, now, you've stepped into a role of leading an organization that does the vital signs. It looks like this. And Nick, you guys have been doing this for a number of years. I think people want to know, what is the Vital Signs Report? What does it make happen? How do you use it? And why don't you walk us through the Vital Signs Report?
It's an in-depth look that takes place every 2 or 3 years as we dig into some of the needs of our community. Some of the concerns. We also highlight a lot of the great positive features as well, but you're absolutely right in your earlier comments that Oakville seems to be a community of contrasts. We are very affluent, but there is poverty. We have a beautiful lakeshore and lakefront, but there's some issues downtown. We've got some incredible schools, but there's some educational issues as well. So as I say, every 2 or 3 years we dig deep and we provide a report that the local citizens can read and understand where some of those needs are. And we as a group then identify with focus which of those needs we're going to work to address in the coming years.
Well, we have to take a short break for a message, and when we're back, let's dive deeper into the vital signs of Oakville and find out what the problems are and what the possible solutions are. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Oakville Matters. We're diving deep into the Vital Signs Report of the Community Foundation of Oakville today. And Nick, you started to explain to us before the break the scope of the Vital Signs Report. And I wonder if you want to highlight what the strongest vital signs are and the weakest vital signs are. Where do we need to focus our efforts?
Sure. Well, let's talk about where we need to focus our efforts. We've identified 4 key areas. One is the equity gap. One is inclusion. Another is housing, and the final one is mental health. In no particular order, but those are the 4 areas of focus. And I think anybody who spends time in this town and actually does dig deep in the way they live in this place will recognize that all 4 of those truly are needs that we need to address. We've done a lot of great work already over the years, but there's a lot more to do. So we do have some meaningful partnerships with the likes of Homeward Bound and Michelle and her group. We're trying to strike more, but what we have as the single greatest resource, I think, are fund holders who care. They care and they have an ability to help and make a difference, whether again that's through time, talent, or treasure. So we're trying to mobilize and create focus for our fund holders in those 4 key areas.
Okay, so of the 4 of them, what's the most important one to address?
Wow, well, that's like asking who's your favorite child.
Yes, which is your favorite child?
Some are easier to deal with.
Mom always liked you best.
No, that would be not true. Some are easier to address than others. Some we can make change appear sooner than others. But I think as people read our Vital Signs Report, it will resonate individually for each reader as to where they really want to apply their time and their care and perhaps their wallet. We're encouraging readers of Vital Signs and anybody listening to the show to visit our website, theocf.org, and to consider opening, what I would say, opening their minds. Hopefully that leads to opening their hearts and eventually perhaps opening their wallets. There's a need in the town, and for each person they're going to find what need resonates and is most meaningful to them. I'm struck, because I'm a father of 3 teenagers, I'm struck by the fact that over 10% of Oakvillians under the age of 18 live at or beneath the poverty line. That one scares me. They're young, their whole lives are ahead of them, and if we can get to them at that stage, I think we can make long-lasting change. That would be mine.
So When people open their wallets, are you hoping that they'll look for a charity that addresses the concern that they have, or that they'll come to you and set up a fund at the CFO?
Either one.
And then you'll direct it.
The model of the foundation is that they can create a fund, a family, personal, individual, or corporate fund, and it's a legacy. It will last forever and ever, long beyond any of us. They still direct where those dollars go as a fund holder. So it's the best of both worlds. My wife and I happen to have a fund, and one of the reasons we did that is when we're long gone, our children will inherit that. And hopefully we're teaching them the benefits of philanthropy and caring about their community. But of course we have fund holders also who will learn of needs and say, I'm going straight to that source. That obviously is helping Oakville as well.
Now, when you create a fund, as opposed to trying to run everything yourself, at the Community Foundation of Oakville, the legend I hear is that your management committee has been able to achieve a higher rate of return on investment than individuals typically are able to achieve. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
The legend is true. As you might suspect, in this community we have some incredibly experienced investment managers who volunteer their time to our investment committee. So as such, our returns have historically almost always been above the benchmark. The other great benefit is that fund holders don't have to worry about it. Their dollars are invested with the community foundation. Those investments, as we say, generate terrific returns, and the reports are provided to the fund holder as to how many dollars they have available, and the question is asked, where would you like to direct those? With the benefit of the vital signs report, fund holders are educated and equipped to make that decision.
So in a world where a consumer can get maybe 1% on a savings account, where does the fund sit numerically? What general area of return are you achieving?
Well, 2008 would be one number. 2014 was a much larger number. 2015 has been a tough year. So we are, I would say historically, we are above 5 and under 10. We have gone above 10 at times, which is great. We try not to bank on that, and we actually do have a rainy day fund where we ensure that a small percentage of every fund holder's dollar is put aside for when we do have the bad years. Those, ironically, are the years where the charities need the most help. So we're set up in such a way that Oakville does not stop giving when the returns are weak. We actually can then tap into our rainy day fund.
Yeah, it's a great success story, and one I think that doesn't get told enough. And it's a real point of pride for people who know about it, and it helps build that sense of pride. And we live in Oakville. So even if you're not a fund holder and you're a fund recipient, it's something to be not just proud of, perhaps, but maybe also grateful for. So it's well worth bringing out, and thank you for being that precise. The background on Home Sweet Hope, have you enjoyed other support from the Community Foundation, or is this the first time that you've come to their risen to their site?
We've been working with the Oakville Community Foundation for a number of years. They've actually been a tremendous supporter of the work that we do through their annual innovation funds. They've supported our Restart Halton program as well, which is a complementary program to the Homeward Bound program. And I think it's, again, just an indication of how broad the Oakville Community Foundation's interests happen to be, not only with Home Sweet Hope, but other organizations that are doing tremendous work in the community. And so we're very thankful to have them as a partner.
So walk us through how a hypothetical client would experience help from Home Sweet Hope. How would they come to your attention? What would you do, and what would they receive, and what would be the outcome? What's the sort of client story?
Yeah. The typical client story is that there is no typical client story.
Oh, good.
People find themselves in distress for any number of reasons. It could be somebody who was living, for all intents and purposes, a middle-class life, and there was a family breakdown. All of a sudden, a parent finds themselves on the street with children in tow and no idea what they're going to do next. To somebody that suffered a reversal, their job loss, and they were living, from paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden they're in precarity. So there are any number of reasons, but when they find out about our organization, they're usually trying to make the transition from an emergency shelter or an emergency situation, trying to rebuild, restabilize their lives.
So you're a homelessness prevention agency?
Yes, that's one way of describing us, but I also like to think of what we do as helping people to become unstuck, helping people to move on out of a crisis.
So how does that work?
Yeah, so people can come to us by self-referral. The majority of people find out about us through agency referrals. We work with over 100 agencies across Halton, and so when they find somebody who's been in a shelter and needs some help, they may refer that family to us. We invite that family in for an interview after an initial phone discussion. We find out about their needs, their lives, the situation that they're in, what's led to the situation, and if they're eligible for our program, and that there are a number of criteria that we look at. The first and foremost is that they need to have primary care of their children. Then we would invite them into the program, provide housing for them, in many cases assist them with furnishing their apartment, through the donations that we receive from the community. And then we would work with them. Our social workers would develop a life plan that would then support them over their 2 years or 4 years that they're with us in our program to achieve their goals and objectives. Many of those goals are around stable employment or retooling their skills so that they can gain stable employment. So it's really a skills development program in addition to being a housing program. It's important to note that families cannot do well if they're worried about where they're going to live next week. And so what we do is we provide a time of stable housing where they can do the work that's needed to put their lives back on track.
I'm really glad you brought that point out. As chair of the police board, I've been struck by the amazing escalation in calls for service from the police. 5, 6, 7% a year growth in calls for service from police, even though crime is decreasing and our population isn't growing anything like that rate. It's less than 2% a year, our population growth. Yes, we are controlling growth, but we have this amazing increase in calls. And we have found, as we analyze that call volume, that there's an increasing, less than 20% of those calls are about crime. And the other 80%, the biggest chunk, is mental health issues. And what you said was that, you know, worry can disturb a family's ability to function is key there. I think worry, worry leads to mental health issues. I think of it as a mental cold, you know, but it's curable. It's not like you have this permanent defect. And worry seems to me is one of the big generators of what we're seeing in terms of the mental health calls. And so it's not that people are crazy. It's that they're having trouble participating in society, and it's leading to acting out in the kids or whatever. So it's very interesting that you brought that out, and it links back to what Nick said about mental health.
Reach Out Center for Kids, as we know, is one of the greatest resources in this community for kids, and it focuses a lot on mental health issues. Last year they had over 1,000 kids check in at their facility, and the number one area of concern, the number one issue, if you will, was anxiety. And that's in kids, and sometimes in kids as young as 5 years old.
Yeah, so that tracks to the worry thing.
Yeah,
yes.
just on that. The interesting thing about the 4 different areas of vital signs is they're all interrelated. And we have to look at problems that the client themselves have a lot of problems and they're complex. So we know that 85% of those suffering from mental health are unemployed. We know that new immigrant families wanting a sense of belonging and inclusion in Oakville suffer greater mental health. And then relatedly, one of the highest reasons, or the major reasons, why we have an equity gap is the high cost of living in Oakville, particularly around affordable housing. Only 4% of housing sold in Oakville last year was affordable. That's under $328,000. When we compare ourselves to Burlington, 54% of their housing was affordable, and Milton, it was 40%. So one of the major reasons and stresses on our families is actually access to affordable housing, which creates the wage gaps, which creates more stress in the family. So we see them all very interrelated. And when we look at moving forward around vital signs, what we're looking at is very client-centered, transformative programs like Homeward Bound Halton, where we can address the multiple obstacles that clients face. And that is the real lesson of our Community of Contrast report.
So it's going to be very interesting to see if the Community Foundation of Oakville starts advocating for building more houses in a town that hates building houses. I'm interested in one other thing here. We have about a couple of minutes left, and that is looking at, thinking Home Sweet Hope. You know, Michelle, you brought out that you have a Halton focus, and Oakville is one of 4 municipalities that are partners in a regional municipality called Halton. Is there a community foundation in each of the other 3 partners of Halton, Burlington, Milton, and Halton Hills?
Well, Burlington, yes, and Milton, Halton North, yes. So there are community foundations, and we do work with them. As a matter of fact, we provide the investment vehicle for Halton North Community Foundation. We work very closely with them to support their initiatives, and we have working relations with the Community Foundation of Burlington.
Are they as old as you and as successful as you, or are they new and you're helping them get started? What's the story there, Nick?
They're newer than we are, so we are trying to coach and support along the way, as other foundations did for us when we got started.
Well, it's always good to be working with our neighbors. I can tell you that your counselors at the Regional Council try to be the kind of neighbors we would want. We try to be helpful when people need it, so I'm glad to hear that. It's an important part of that is you can't give help before people ask for it. So, you know, if you want to be a good neighbor, you got to hold back till they ask. What interests me, which is the 2 is newer? The North, what are you calling the one, Milton and Halton Hills?
Halton North.
Halton North. And will they split up into their own? Halton Hills is going to have a huge growth over the next 16 years. And they're going to be approaching 90,000 residents when it's done. Milton right now is over 100,000, and by the time it's done in 16 years, it's going to be over 200,000. What do you expect will happen there?
Well, there's certainly a benefit to scale because of economies that can be realized in managing dollars, et cetera, and infrastructure. But that said, each community is very specific and unique as it relates to their own needs and opportunities. So Oakville's a great example. We benefit both. We have scale, thanks to a lot of fund holders who really truly care, but we maintain focus in Oakville, our community. Hopefully in time, other community foundations will be able to do the same, enjoy the scale while remaining focused.
Great. Well, thank you, all 3 of you, for being here today. It's really good to talk about what matters to Oakville, and I hope that you've seen today something that will help you find a way to get involved in your community and help make a difference for making Oakville the most livable town in Canada. Thanks for watching.